We're coming in hot to give you our hot takes on all the latest mental health news.
From headlines and memes to developments and breakthroughs.
We go into this show blind with the hopes of learning something new.
Before sharing some bunny hugs.
And leaving with our eyes wide open. I'm Nick.
And I'm Todd. And this is Mental Health Headline Hot Takes.
We're glad you're here. Hey everyone, welcome to another week's episode of Mental Health Headline Hot Takes. I'm Nick.
I'm Todd. I'm just spinning the wheel to see who goes first here.
Spin the wheel, make the deal. God,
I go first again. I mean, yeah, I go first again. I don't know why I don't want to go first, but so I don't really have an article for this one. I just bear with me with this. I like watching Survivor. I know it's a reality show, but they're pretty good at being, I don't want to say woke, but they like to diversify their contestants, and they do talk about gay rights, and they've talked about even addictions and things in the past, and it's very good. However, this past episode, they had a woman who is ADHD, and she admitted she's ADHD, and people were trying to, it's a game. It's not really like reality show. It's a game show, I would say.
It's a contest.
It's a contest. And
which, by the way, contests in reality shows, and like there's different layers to those things. So they have like different regulations and stuff. Contests or competition shows have a little, not a lot, a little bit more regulation to them, I think, because they've been around longer. But anyway, right. just fun fact for you.
Right. Yeah, I'm assuming there was a lot of shady stuff in the early years of Survivor, but I feel like it's been around enough, and they have a pretty good. They're getting better anyway at treating their contestants right and whatever. But anytime that someone says something bad, whether it's about gay rights or trans rights or whatever, there's usually like a big conversation about it in the tribal council thing. And this lady has ADHD, and people were like conspiring against her in the bushes and stuff. And they were using language like they were calling her a dingus and being clueless. And what was the other one? It was like, oh, they had to babysit her and all this stuff. And it really, like, I was getting red faced. Like, my son was like looking over at me because I kept swearing. I'm like, what's with this language? Why is it okay for people to talk about neurodivergent people on this show in this, using this kind of language, and then, perpetuating the stigma and making it habitual. And it really bothered me. So then I actually went online. I went to CBS's Survivor page on Instagram. I went to the lady.
Uh-oh.
You're going to be the lady.
I have a reel I should send you that you should have listened to before you went and did this.
Then I went to the lady who got kicked off. I went to her Instagram, and I basically ranted about how I don't like, this language isn't fair. And, I understand that, just because people don't understand doesn't mean you can't accept people for how they are, and that's all I'm asking for, and to not use language like that to belittle. And because it's near and dear to my heart, because I was just recently diagnosed with ADHD, and I lived life with depression, anxiety, and substance abuse, and a lot of it comes down to my ADHD and my inner dialogue, because I've heard all that stuff growing up. You're lazy. I'm different. I'm this, I'm that, I'm that. And like, hey, can you pay attention? Why you're always late? And yada, yada, yada. So anyway, it really pissed me off. So I made these comments, and on Instagram, 99% of them were either.
Wait, you made more than one?
Well, because I posted on a couple different pages on Instagram, and 99% of them was either liked or someone said I agree. But of course, yeah, there's a few people that were like, "Quit being a baby," and "You're so sensitive." I'm like, this is, and I wasn't gonna back down. It's like, if I'm gonna make a statement online, like, I'm a mental health advocate, I'm gonna advocate when I think someone is being victimized, or when I think there's, a call to call someone out. So I never backed down. For every response there was, I would respond back with, I wasn't calling names.
I just word from the wise. You will never, ever win an online battle in the comments. It is. And trust me, I get sucked into sometimes, but now I'm just kind of like, if I don't see them all because there's so many, but I look at them. If I think there's a point that can be made and someone's swayable, fine. But like otherwise, man, you were just opening yourself up to emotional distress with a bunch of people that probably wouldn't say 90% of the stuff they say online to people in real life.
No, I knew that going into it, but when I first kind of made the comments, it was late at night, so I slept on it. I was less emotional, and the next day I was able to respond with less emotion.
That was what my reel said. Look inside, figure out why, and then make a decision if is it worth it? If it's a you thing or if it, yeah,
right. And there was one person that was like, I'm responding with emotion and I'm taking a step back, and I was like, cool, thanks for
I appreciate that
ideas
when people do that. Yeah, when they're actually those are the ones I'll respond to, when they'll actually show some sort of like openness to conversation or openness to, because people don't know what they don't know, and they only know their lived experience, and everybody is watching the world through their personal glasses, right? And the way that they see the world is full of biases. So it's really one of those things where people just a lot of times people are good people. They don't know what they don't know. And they're open to hearing opposing viewpoints and changing the way that they think and they feel with new information. So, there is, it's not all bad, but it can very quickly be all bad. The internet is a dirty, vile, nasty place. And I'm talking about Instagram. I'm not even talking about Twitter or Reddit.
Yeah. Well, there was actually only I think maybe 2 people out of everything that really pushed back and were annoying, and the one what do they call it, moderator scolded the one person or kicked them out. I don't know what they did. But it was all good. So yeah, well, I don't know, I'm glad I did it. It didn't affect my mental health, and as an advocate, I feel like I have to advocate and make points. But it's just funny how they made my point. My original point was I'm like, here, exactly, this is my point. You're calling people babies and quit being so sensitive and all this stuff. And whether they got it or not, I doubt, but that's fine. But yeah, I think a lot of people appreciated that I said something, including the lady that got the boot. So,
well, I think it's really, I mean, I know how I feel about this, but I'm trying to bring in other perspective. Like, a lot of this stuff that happens on these shows is to be a hot take, is to be someone's a villain, someone says something crazy, someone does something crazy, so that the viewer who's looking at their crazy ass life thinks, well, I'm not that crazy, right? So it's this weird, and then obviously the well-documented stuff I've talked about before, with you're in these pressure cooker environments and you don't know up from down and left from right half the time. So, I empathize with that, but I just think getting themselves so triggered and riled up over something they see on TV is just not, they're it's just, and it's not, there's no context. You the whole time. I know. And there's no context.
What was it, last week or the week before? Your story was about the psychologist that's like, I'm going to stop making, whatever the hell
commentary on,
commentary about reality TV stuff I watch. And that's exactly what I'm doing now. And I put that in my thing. I was like, I understand it's edited and whatever, but as someone with ADHD and neurodivergent, this kind of language isn't cool, whether it was the individual that actually said it or whether it was the show editing it and making it look that way. Either way.
Could be. That's where, this is where my advocacy comes. Like, hey, shows, you have a moral, ethical obligation to society to tell people that this is entertainment, so that when you do see something like that and you do get upset, which is a fair, people seeing stuff on TV and watching something they think is real and having an emotion, that's normal. I think that's part of the whole experience of entertainment, right? Is to drum up an emotion of some sort. But when it is inaccurately or leaving context or completely accurate, like I think they have an ethical and moral responsibility to remind people like, hey, we have driving storylines here, because that's the whole nature of the industry. So that would be my big takeaway there. And I'm not saying, I obviously didn't see it, so I'm not saying I know or don't know or have a thought or don't have a thought. I just tend to think people deserve grace first and foremost on these shows. Survivor has been around for 20 some years now, I think. And it's been wildly successful. And I think that there's a lot going on that show specifically with how you're living your time on it and all that stuff. And I don't know, like, I'm not okay with degrading commentary or degrading comments. I just feel like I don't know any of the context.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. And I actually said that in one of my comments too, was because and one of my responses was like, maybe it was even edited this way to purposely evoke this emotion to have this conversation. Like, I don't even know.
100% could be that.
Yeah. And I understand they're all hungry and sleep deprived and all this stuff. Like, I get all that, but still.
Well, I think these shows, like, I go back and forth, and I went through this my whole time too. I don't know if they're the most smartest, psychologically manipulative, mastermind, big evils, like big criminal mastermind, evil doers, or if they're so out of touch running by the seat of their pants that they don't even have any idea the stuff that they're putting out there and how it impacts people. And, when I go back to my situation with Danielle in Mexico and how that all aired out and edited, and thinking to myself, I'm like, I just wonder if they just have no idea that positioning someone who had a panic attack like that in the light that they did is just not okay. Do they know that they're doing that and they don't care? Or do they not realize that they're so out of touch? And I think it's probably they know what they're doing and they don't care, because here's the thing. No, I should find something about this, but I take a show like Love is Blind, and people write my comments on my post last week, and this is related. I'm not just taking it, but they write like, oh, but like the people going on the shows aren't going on for love anymore. It's like, well, maybe the show is not casting people for love. Maybe they're not matchmaking people. Maybe they're trying to make money. And the best way they can make money is to produce dramatic TV that escalates every season to keep people coming back. So it's like on the viewer now, it's like, why are you watching it? Because if you're watching it for a love story, maybe you're not watching it for the right reason.
Right.
But I can't take on more messaging about that with Survivor, but it's a chance. Like, they've got to produce the drama too, or people won't keep watching.
Right. And it's funny with Survivor, because when it started, it was just this competition show that was really cool. And then they did turn into a little bit of housewife, just like, let's see everyone fight and kill each other and be mean to each other. And then they moved away from that, actually. And it's like, no, this is stupid. Let's get a nice cross section of society and just have these storylines that are there. We don't need this gross drama shit.
Right.
It's interesting enough without it.
Right. Well, I think a lot of these shows would be. I think and I never watched Survivor, but I remember when it came out, I was like, this is the coolest concept. I would never do it. I'd be too scared, hungry, scared. Yeah. Well, I intermittent fast, so I'd probably be okay for the most part. I'm pretty good at not eating now, but it's interesting. I just without context, it's hard to, but I understand why it upset you. And I think that's valid and fair. You don't want to watch that.
Yeah. The one thing I didn't do was find the people on Instagram and make death threats.
Well,
I was like, this is a show
that makes you better than a lot of people.
This topic came up, so I'm going to talk about that topic. I'm not going to. But anyway, so that's my thing for this week.
Got it. Well, mine's very timely. Mine's a story, and my story is about what we experienced this weekend, which is daylight savings time. And my article is by Janet Lork. I'm going to say Lork, Loehrka, Lork. Daylight saving times, how springing forward can affect your mood and your body. And I want to start off with her first line, which I think is hilarious. It's, here we go again. Daylight savings time is here. And I really relate to the here we go again. But so we sprang forward. You didn't. Wait, right? No, I sprang forward. I don't relate. Yeah.
I didn't. We don't touch our clocks in Saskatchewan.
Yeah, which is nice. And I'm starting to kind of lean in that direction, even though I like having light later at night. I don't like the way I felt yesterday. So for those of you who don't experience this, on Saturday night, I believe it's at 2 a.m. So, I'm sorry, that would be Sunday morning. Saturday night, Sunday morning, 2 a.m. It immediately jumps to 3 a.m. So you're fast asleep or out at the club or whatever you're doing at that time of the day, and it jumps an hour ahead. So the challenge here with this is, and they quote a Harvard medical study in here too, where they say it wreaks havoc on people's mental health and their well-being in the short term, because it gives you a sleep disruption that leaves you feeling tired or drowsy. And it actually, there's been studies that show like car accidents the next week are increased by like 6%. And what's going on is it's really messing with your circadian rhythm, and your circadian rhythm is that piece of your body that keeps you going to know when it's daytime, when it's nighttime. And if you listen to some of the leading neurologists and brain specialists in the world, and they talk a lot about circadian rhythm, right? Like, get sunlight in your eyes first thing in the morning. I talk about this on my social media too. And then even getting it throughout the day keeps you regulated. But now you've got that hour shift. So people who are waking up in the pitch black, dark now, and it's kind of throwing people off. And then it's also staying light out later, which is the piece that's nice about it. But then that keeps you up later as well. So you're kind of putting yourself, until you start to adjust again, in this weird 1 hour shift that really affects your circadian rhythm and your normal 24-hour cycles that happen. And what this does, and what like the exposure to the sunlight does to your circadian rhythm, is it helps your body regulate the chemicals, so like releasing cortisol at the right time, releasing serotonin at the right time, so that your chemical imbalance, even if you have a chemical imbalance of some sort to begin with, it's probably even worse for you. But it's just, there's less light in the morning. There's and that produces lower amounts of serotonin, which is what elevates our mood. And then the evenings, everything's delayed, which is including like melatonin. So your body just doesn't really know what to do until it readjusts. And I thought there was one piece in here that was interesting that I really wanted to talk to you about today, is this people who suffer from seasonal affective disorder, which I do. It actually tends to get better this time of year. But according to this article, there are studies that show 10% of people with seasonal affective disorder get affected in the spring and in the fall. So it's interesting because yesterday and today, I'm like, I feel like I can't even walk straight. Like, that's how off I feel.
Mentally, if you've ever experienced jet lag, it's basically jet lag.
It is. Yeah. And unfortunately, I have bad jet lag before from traveling, to Europe and stuff. So I think I don't. Do we open the debate to should we have daylight savings time if you want to talk about it? But I just think it's interesting to like look at this and look at these studies and realize, oh, hey, our bodies are kind of going to go through this, and that's going to affect our mood at least for a little while. And I think the awareness about that is good, because I think, you can think about it. Yeah, I don't feel right. But like knowing that there's actually been research to show what's happening in your body when this happens, and the challenges that people are feeling from going to bed later and waking up earlier, or your body feeling like that's what's happening, is worth talking about.
Yeah. I've never had to change my clock in my life. I've only lived in places, just Saskatchewan, I guess, really, where we didn't have to change our clocks. I've known lots of people that have moved to Saskatchewan from other places around the world. I don't know anyone that likes changing their clocks. I've never had anyone go, oh, I'm so glad we do it.
There's a huge debate. People really have like hard lines on this. They either really like it or they really dislike it.
I'm curious. There should be a study of why people like it, like
so
study of why they don't like it.
Right. So it's interesting. You can I don't know if there's been studies, but the people that like it, they're more like working 9 to 5 jobs because they get that extra sunlight after work. They're the ones that tend to like it the most. And the people that have early jobs, work third shift or more working class, maybe like a 6 a.m. to a 3 p.m. Like they're the ones that don't tend to not like it as much. And again, this is my opinion, right? I've seen this. I don't know. I'm not quoting an official study, but that's what I've noticed. Seems to be the case in the debate. But so and I like it because I like having more sunlight after work. But what I don't like about it is that I do think it's like, it kind of sucks that it's dark until 7:30, 8 a.m. right now today.
Weird. Yeah. I'll get up at like 6:30 in the morning and it's like sun's coming up and it's like, oh, this is nice.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's like you go back 3 months back into winter again, the dark. But I like that it's just natural. It's like, this is just how the earth works and this is how time works. And this is it.
Well, and I think too, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
I was going to say the one thing I hate, it's less so now because of streaming, but when I was younger, it was like The Simpsons came on at 7 and then this time of year is like, oh, now they're on at 8. It's like, oh, my shows are all changing.
Yeah. See, we don't deal with that because they just adjust with that. But I do think so. The article, I just want to share this to end on, I guess, but they share some ways and tips. Is this a psychologist? Who is this lady? Who is this lady? I don't know. She's quoting studies, so I got confused. But the tips that they recommend to help you with this, I'm trying to see who's recommending it. The American Academy of Sleep Medicine, it looks like, is who's doing this. Okay, so they say you can improve your sleep habits by changing your schedule by increments of 15 or 30 minutes to slowly adapt to the new routine, getting your bedtime a little bit earlier and making it easier to adjust. Enjoy the sunny days, take walks, sit around, get outside, soak up the sun. It will help adjust your clock. Follow a healthy diet, no caffeine or alcohol. Keep moving, which is, the greatest thing that has ever helped me with my depression and my mental health struggles is moving. I will force myself, if at all possible, to get outside a couple times a day for walks. Sometimes they're 10 minutes, sometimes they're 2 hours. But it is, even if it's cold, I try to like just bundle up and do it because it really does help me sort of feel calm and regulated. And a little bit better if I'm struggling. So I recommend those.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, I also recommend just not changing your clocks.
To do that too. They also recommend, I'm just seeing one last thing. If you're stuck being indoors, which I just kind of downplayed, they say walk up and down the stairs, do some yoga poses or dance to your favorite songs. So no excuse. Move your bodies. It will help, especially this week.
It seems like a lot of work just to get an extra hour to like slowly wean yourself for a week, 15 minutes. Yeah. Right. Like I don't even notice it's darker in the evening. Like it's still pretty light out at, especially like when it comes to like June and July. Yeah. I mean, I don't know, but this is all I've ever known. So whatever. Yeah. Because I don't have to change my clocks. I always forget what day it is. So like interviews like this, I had a bunch set up and then I have to go back and like change my calendar because like, oh shit, everyone's changed the clocks but me. So it's actually, I have to meet everyone an hour early. So
it should auto do that for them on their side.
Oh, but not for me, I don't think.
On their calendars. It would auto update if they're using like Google or whatever. It would update for them.
Right. Yeah. I never use the calendar invite. I just write my own calendar because I don't know what I'm doing.
Old school.
Anyway, right on. If you have any stories or any articles or any topics you want us to talk about, just let us know. We've got all our socials and all our links down in the show notes, and reach out to us. So, yeah, thanks for listening.
Thank you. This has been our Mental Health Headline Hot Takes.
We're so glad you came.
Remember, when you heal yourself,
you heal the world.
Be sure to like this video, leave comments, and suggest articles for future episodes.
Hit subscribe to Eyes Wide Open
and Bunny Hugs and Mental Health.